Hello and welcome to TechFunnel.com's interview series. My name is Danny White, and today we have the opportunity to talk to Ted Rubin. Ted is a leading social marketing strategist, speaker, author, provocateur, CMO of Photify, and MC and host of Brand Innovators monthly marketing summits. In March 2009, he started using and evangelizing the term ROR, Return on Relationship, along with the hashtag RonR. Many people in the social media world know Ted for his enthusiastic, energetic, and undeniably personal connection to people. Ted is currently writing his upcoming book along with his business partner and retail thought leader, John Andrews, titled Retail Relevancy. Welcome, Ted. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, Danny, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. So if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and your work within the social marketing world.
Wow. Well, I don't know how much time you have, but
all the time in the world.
I got involved in digital in 1997 when I really basically discovered the internet, started researching, realized immediately this was something I needed to get involved in, and was fortunate enough. Some of my early research back using AOL to get online and such, to discover an article, which was an interview of Seth Godin. And at the end, not only was I fascinated by everything Seth had to say, but at the end of the interviewer said, so, the Yo-Yo Dine, the company you're running, which was his company at the time, sounds really cool. Do you have any job openings? And he said, I don't have any job openings, but I will always hire a smart person. And I desperately need people that can sell anything because no one sold this before.
Wow.
And, a light went off in my head, and it was very, very late at night. I stayed up later. I wrote a letter. Yes, a letter. Those things that you printed out. And I printed out my resume, which I updated a little bit just to suit the situation. And I said, just heard you speak. Love everything you have to say. I'm really smart and I can sell anything.
Wow.
And I remember my wife at the time, who's my ex-wife, was kind of laughing, saying, why would you apply for a job where there's no job? And about 10 days later, I got a call. So my initial, I went up, I met Seth. I was fortunate enough to be able to see eye to eye with him on certain things. He agreed that I could help them. We were able to make a deal. And I moved my family back to New York. I had moved to Florida for a while after I had closed another business I was in. And I got involved in digital early on. And, even though it wasn't called social media then, and there were no social media platforms, it was still an advancement in social capabilities because of email, because of the internet. I mean, even without the Facebooks and the Instagrams and the LinkedIns and Twitters of today, and I'm not even talking about the earlier predecessors, just email, just the ability to reach out 24/7 to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And the ability that even if you couldn't get them, you could get their website or their blog or something that would tell you something about them,
right,
without having to go home and look in the encyclopedia. Danny, you're probably too young to even know what those things are.
Probably, yes.
Right. Or to have to wait till the next day and go to the library and oh my God, I'll use a term that probably nobody in this audience knows unless they're as old as me, microfiche, where they kept records of old print publications. Social media really, for me, as a media platform, started then. And so I got involved very early. I was very fortunate. Seth was brilliant. Mm-hmm. I moved up without my family for a number of months. Mm-hmm. Made the mistake of moving in with my in-laws. Don't ever do that. Especially and all they do is scream at each other if you're a football fan. Mm-hmm. But what it did was, I believe things happen for a reason. I'm not an early riser, but it got me out of the house early, 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m. before anybody woke up, so I didn't have to listen to it. And it got me to the office when the only one there was an early riser named Seth Godin. And Seth was holding forth and wanted an audience to hear about all these things he was thinking. And I became that audience, and it was an education unto itself. It's where return on relationship really came in my mind, because Seth didn't use that term, but he talked about how important it was to connect with people, which is something that I had always done. I'd always been successful as a salesman. I always made less calls and reached out to less people than a lot of the guys in the office, but I built very strong relationships with those I did connect with. And Seth was coining the term at the time, permission marketing. He was talking about how to spread ideas, which, permission marketing became his first bestseller, Permission Marketing. He started talking about how to spread ideas, which became another bestseller, the Idea Virus. And I was fortunate enough to be there for that. At the same time, e-commerce and digital was really starting. E-commerce at the time was nothing more than putting a catalog online, and websites were just reprints of people's, brochures.
Right.
I was able to watch this all evolve and listen to Seth talk about how he felt it needed to evolve. And I started relating that to my relationship type of selling. I ran a sales team. I went there as a salesman. Within 3 months, I built a whole new team. We ended up getting acquired by Yahoo. I worked for them for a while. And then I shortly thereafter made a transition to the marketing side, because I felt like marketing and sales were really crossing over, especially in the digital space in the early days with media and other things. And it allowed me to be a little bit more creative rather than, repetitively selling the same thing. So that's where I got my start. Just a quick run from there. We got acquired by Yahoo. I went to a company called Bottle Rocket that built games to help keep people engaged on websites. I went from there to 800 Flowers and was fortunate to be at a big brand for a little while, or what was a big brand in the digital space back at the time.
Right.
Opened doors so I got a lot more people to talk to me without having to hammer away at them, which led me to a company called Elf Cosmetics, which I joined in 2008 when they were doing about $5 million a year and were having trouble really breaking out because they had no money for marketing. They were dollar cosmetics brands, eyeslipsface.com. You might have heard of them.
Right. Yeah.
They, because they were a family-owned business and there was not a big legal team, they let me, before anybody else in the industry, really start experimenting and learning that you could build a brand with social media.
Incredible.
And I did that at Elf. We grew it to 50 million in sales before I left. They're now, I haven't checked their stock lately, but they have been valued at over $1 billion. So it was really a cool time. I went from there to OpenSky and learned about peer-to-peer commerce and how to, and the work I did with bloggers at Elf to help spread the message. I continued at OpenSky. I went from there and became a partner with John Andrews at Collective Bias, which still is a community, a company that uses a community of bloggers. We built it to about 4,000 strong that build content for brands in a storytelling format to help them sell products instead of advertisements. And it's just kind of been a progression from there. I MC the Brand Innovator events. I wrote 3 books, Return on Relationship, which is the hub of everything I do. And by the way, the hashtag is R on R, not Ron R. And that's a story unto itself. If we have time, we can go into it.
Okay.
About how that happened, but it's meant for our return on our relationship.
Awesome.
And then I wrote a book after that was part of the first book, but I expanded on it, called How to Look People in the Eye Digitally, which means how to get to know people the way you do when you're face to face, the way your mom or your dad or your mentors taught you, and hopefully taught you that when you're with people, you look at them. You pay attention when they're speaking to you. You don't look at everybody else that walks in the room, and you show them that you're interested. People really still, for the most part, don't do that online. And it's so easy to do. They just, because it's not natural to them the way they've learned to do it when they're face to face. And who knows, so many people don't even do it face to face anymore because they're looking at their devices or 20 million other distractions. And then I wrote a book called The Age of Influence because of where everything is going with, what people call influencers, which I think is really just media, but how everybody influences somebody, and your employees, your friends, your family, your customers are the ones that can best help you spread your message.
Very cool journey that you've taken. So you said a little while ago that creating genuine relationships, those face-to-face connections, even on social media, is real easy to do, but people don't do it. So how easy is it for people to do that? Well,
you know what? When I say easy, I mean it's not. It's not. You don't need to be incredibly intelligent or not complicated. But what it does take is it takes time. It takes effort. And a lot of people are looking to cut the effort out. I mean, I don't know about you. How old are you, Danny?
I'm in my 20s.
Okay. Which means that either now or at least a few years ago, when your parents reach out to you, you would write back and go K instead of okay. You would say yeah. YA instead of saying, yes, everything's fine.
Yes.
I mean, because everybody's always looking for shortcuts. And the truth is, to connect on a human level, to really get to know people, it needs to go beyond simplification. Now, simplification is great when you have a group of friends and you want to figure out where you're going to meet later, or you want to just share something from the day, but you see them often. Like I would venture a guess, most of your friends that you answer very briefly, it's because you have other times where you're engaging with them and really becoming friends with them, whether it's in class at school, whether it's next to them as a colleague at work, whether it's when you go out for drinks later, and that in between becomes just the bridge to the real relationship. But what happens when it comes to people that just don't ever see each other is that it's not just a bridge, it is your only means of communication. Therefore, I just, and by the way, what I'm talking about is not rocket science. This has been taught for years and years. I like to say that the best social media book ever written was written in 1936 by a guy named Dale Carnegie. And it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, the book is fun to read because it's a little kitschy and it was written so long ago. And, and so a lot of the expressions are old. I mean, not even old school for what you'd think, but like out of date.
Out of date, yeah.
But when you read it, what it's talking about is how to make people feel special. One of the things Dale Carnegie says, and sometimes I get credit for this, and I try to say, this is just something I learned, and I learned from people like Dale Carnegie, was that everyone loves to be called by their name. Everyone loves to be recognized by who they are. So when you say, but nobody does, so few people do that in text or email. But if you communicate with me, you'll find very often I include your name in communications. If I'm texting, now I don't mean on every single text when you're going back and forth, or every email. But if you reach out, when I reach back, I'll usually do my best, and I can't do it all the time, but to include Danny in the reply, or when you're talking to somebody, because it makes them feel special. The most beautiful word in any language to someone's ears is the sound of their own name.
Their own name.
That's just one little thing. So, to talk about other things, go to people's profiles. They put so much information there that you can find out about and that you can learn who that person is, where they worked, what they did. There's no excuses anymore to go unprepared into a meeting and know nothing about the person you're meeting with.
Right, absolutely. And I think that's one of the most, that's one of my favorite things to do is to go on LinkedIn, go through people's social profiles, go to their websites, read about them, find out, what they're interested in before talking to them. I think that's really, really important.
I mean, some of it is as simple as just like, I can't tell you how many meetings I go to with high-level salespeople, meeting new people at a company, and the first words out of their mouth is, "Oh, Joe, how long have you been here?" Oh my God, did you bother looking at their LinkedIn profile?
Yeah.
What you should have said, or one of two other alternatives could have been, wow, you've been here for 12 years. You can probably tell me so much about this company.
Right.
Or, I see you just joined. Is there anything we can do to support you? And that changes the whole, because people, by the way, even if they don't respond to you, in their mind, they say, wow, this person did their homework.
Right. That impression. Yeah.
Right.
So when you're seeking to build those genuine relationships, what do you tend to place the most real value on?
Well, I try to pay attention to people. I try to look at them, especially even friends. Like I'll get an outreach from a friend who's been a friend for years and years and lives in Seattle. So I haven't seen him in a while. And I'll get a ping saying, hey, Teddy, when you have some time, could we jump on a call? Before I do that, I will go to his, and I'm connected to him on a lot of platforms, but I'll go to his Facebook, his LinkedIn, his Twitter, his Instagram, just very briefly. I want to see what's going on in his life. Not necessarily even so I can say something to show him I've been paying attention, but more so I can make sure that I don't make a gaffe, like saying something like, oh my God, it's so great to hear from you. Everything must be great. And he says, or, God forbid, or, something just happened, or I just lost my job. Didn't you see that I posted it?
Right.
And so to me, I just think that it's really important to pay attention. And then of course, look, you don't always have time for that. So hopefully, and there aren't a lot of people that do this anymore. If your phone rings, you pick it up. I got to tell you, most people don't. And here's another one. Stop leaving your voicemail full so nobody leaves voicemails.
Voicemails. I actually just have deleted all of my voicemails because it was at 98%.
That is so transparent.
Yeah.
But the only reason you're doing that is you don't want me to leave a message. and that says I don't give. And I'm going to leave out the last word because I'm sure you probably edit it if I put it in. But it just says I don't care about you. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what you have to say. And you're going to have to wait until you get me on the phone if you're lucky enough to do that. Mm. And so, like, you know, open up that voicemail. Leave a voicemail that's a little bit more welcoming that, you know, either one of the automatic ones or I'm not here to leave a message. You know, tell someone to have a nice day. You think it isn't important, and you're correct. There's a lot of people that won't care, but that one or two people out of 100 who do care are the people that can make a difference. So, and then when you get on the phone with people, say, how can I help you? Is there anything I can do to support you? Start making one-liners or words part of your vocabulary that show people that you're interested. Listen to what they have to say. Don't cut them off and just say what you want to say. I mean, I'm doing that now because that's what we're here for. You're here to hear me talk. But I try very hard. And look, a lot of things come into my head. I'm a type A. There's always stuff running through. I'm looking at things. I'm on the phone with you. I'm like, I want to say something. But I've really trained myself and taken the time to learn to listen to people.
Right.
Because to me, that shows. And then one of the great one of the great tips I got years ago from a mentor was repeat back something to somebody that they said to you. Mm-hmm. It shows them that you're listening.
Right.
Oh, wow, that Hawaii trip was really great. Oh my God, the lava flow at the volcanoes must have been amazing. Mm-hmm. When you do that, that person knows for sure that you're paying attention.
Right. Absolutely. We have a saying in another organization that I volunteer at, and it says, pay attention to hellos and goodbyes. Just paying attention to what people are saying or what they're not saying and engaging them in that conversation. So that's really interesting point.
I love that. One of the things I always say to people is, and there's another thing, I've written this, I don't know which blog post or if it's been a few times, but stop and wait for the answer. Right. You know, people reply and go, hey, how are you? You know, and sure, look, there are people in your office that could, you're all over the office all day long. Mm-hmm. You know, saying how you doing tends to be just a greeting as you go by. Mm-hmm. But in the morning or the first time you see that person, or if you haven't seen them in a while, or especially when you pass people on the street that you don't know, who most people try to ignore, or my favorite is when they purposely look away as they're getting close to you.
Right.
God forbid you might say hello, and they'll have to say hello back. But what I try to do is I say, hi, how are you? And if they don't answer, that's fine. But if they answer back, or sometimes they'll answer back and go, great, how are you? And I want to make sure to come back and go, I'm doing great. It was so nice of you to ask. You know, again, people say this stuff is insignificant. It doesn't matter. But it does. And it's not about the numbers. It's about the few people. It's like giving out business cards. People tell me, oh, I don't carry business cards, or they're out of date, or I'm saving the environment. I'm like, bullshit. Carry business cards. They're one of the most important tools you can have in anything you do. Mm-hmm. Because people are not, oh, find me on LinkedIn. Oh, I have to remember how to spell your name. Oh, right. By the way, it wasn't Danny, it was Daniela. I didn't know that because you introduced yourself as Danny. Uh-huh. Or the myriad of the way people spell their names. You know, and then now on top of that, you're at an event and you met 300 people.
Right, absolutely.
And yes, the truth is, majority of people you hand your card to, throw them out. Mm-hmm. But it's not about the majorities. Mm-hmm. It's about the minorities.
One or two, yeah.
People. And then it's also about building relationships. I talk about this on stage all the time. Take the calls. Relate to people. Don't wait until you're out of work before you're willing to call somebody back. And that happens all the time. I can't tell you how often I get a note on LinkedIn or an email and it says, hey, Ted, how are you? Listen, I know I haven't been responsive for the last year or so, and you've reached out a few times, but you know, I was very busy and I had a very important job. But by the way, I was just laid off and I was wondering if you could open your whole network to me and spare half an hour so I could pick your brain. Like, really?
Not gonna work.
You know, and even if it does, I'm going to be that much less inclined to make it valuable time for you to open up my, like, there are certain people that you could introduce you to somebody, Danny, that I met 4 years ago, haven't spoken to once, and I'll still reach out and try to redevelop that relationship so I can make that intro to you. Mm-hmm. If you're somebody that showed me that you cared and didn't just reach out to me now that you're out of work.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the other thing I say to young people especially is everything looks rosy now. You graduated college, you got a great job, you're working, you are going to be out of work. You're going to need something at some time in your life. God forbid someone in your family is going to be sick and you're going to need a referral. There's no let up in life. Everything happens to everybody.
Absolutely.
So don't wait for it to happen. You know, it's like the people who get sick, and that's when they first start thinking about eating healthier and working out. I'm a vegan. I've been a vegan now for almost 3 years, and people always ask, were you sick? Or like, why did you become a vegan? And I'm like, because I saw people around me who were friends who weren't even doing what they should have done after they got sick, but made this effort. I'm like, why not make the effort? And this goes, I'm using this as an analogy, make the effort before you need the results.
Absolutely.
I like to say, reach out and like people, like them before they like you. Show them that you're willing to take the first step.
And also adding value to the people that you reach out to as well. Not just taking up their time or asking them for something, but actually giving them some value in return can go a long way as well.
I can't tell you how many calls I've been on where I can hear the person on the other end waiting for my ask. I think I'm calling to ask. And at the end of the call, when I don't ask for anything and I ask them what I can do for them, they're a little taken aback. You know, and I mean, I do this all the time, and I purposely reach out when I don't need something. And then, you know, and then 90% of the time when I'm asking for something, it's not even like, I'm not trying to sell you something. I have a friend's son or daughter who just graduated college and would love to meet someone in the industry they can talk to. I have a colleague who's in his 50s who's been unemployed for a year and just needs someone to, not to give him a job, but to maybe give him some insight into what he's doing wrong or where he could go in a certain industry. And people just don't get that. They're always putting their barriers up instead of realizing, do for others without expectation of anything directly in return, and you will get it back.
Absolutely. Definitely. So what's the number one piece of advice you would give concerning social media and relationship building and engagement? You've given us a lot of good information that I hope our audience and myself included would take to heart. But what's like the number one piece of advice you would give in summary?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, just be you. You know, at the new year, I know we're, oh my God, I can't believe it's mid-April already.
Absolutely, almost May.
I feel like it's January. But, you know, in January, you get all these posts you start reading on how to transform yourself for the new year and setting goals to better yourself. But, you know, I can't help but thinking that sometimes we get so caught up in trying to live up other people's expectations that we lose sight of what makes us unique as individuals. And that's whether online or out in, you know, what I guess we call the real world now. We live in an era when those expectations are always on display, and our mistakes, mishaps, and embarrassing moments are more public than ever. And I say, you know, an option is to give in to those expectations and hide your true feelings, toe the line, and filter your actions, or be who you are. There's a Dr. Seuss quote that I always used to read to my daughters, and they're 22 and 24 now, and I still try to read it to them. They just won't listen. I can't get past 2 words, but, you know, be who you are and say what you feel, because in the end, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't
matter. Absolutely.
And also, it's very hard to not be yourself. You know, you see actors, there's a reason that really good actors make so much money. It's because everybody can't do it.
Right.
Because it's just not that easy. So when you try to act or be something different, especially in social media, it's so hard to keep up. And people, and don't question this, they will call you out.
They will, absolutely.
I thought you were a vegan, or I thought you said that you would never, you know, you don't drink Coca-Cola. What are you doing? Whatever. Or, you know, why are you consulting for Coca-Cola when you call them like the devil? Or, you know, I mean, seriously. And like I've turned down work from Coke and from McDonald's, and, you know, I won't do those kinds of things because they go against who I am. And then I got to tell you that every once in a while, when I do have a problem online, someone calls me out or says something, I don't say a word. I wait, because my followers jump in and go, oh, you got the wrong guy. Like, you must have misunderstood what he said. I've never seen him lose his cool. You know, I just recently had this. I live in a condo, and there's a condo board. It's a small building, and it's just all these silly little things. And at the meeting, somebody tried to accuse me of yelling at people outside the building. And and most of them aren't even, they're like owners that don't even live here. Mm-hmm. And the people live here go, oh my God, like I've seen people scream at him, like people driving their truck. He never loses his cool. And a buddy of mine said, how come like that person said something nasty? I go, because you know what? The minute I do that, they'll only remember that one time I did. But right. But this is who I am. Mm-hmm. I don't, and by the way, I wasn't always like this. I was a type A New Yorker and I was younger and more, now I've just learned. I've been through a lot of things. I have challenges keeping my daughters in my life. I had to fight for that. And I just learned that there are more important things. But if you're who you are, especially via social media, first of all, people want to know who you are. This isn't the old world where there was a business persona and a personal persona. People want to, I believe truly that the vast majority of people in business, they want to know something about you, even if there's something they don't agree with. Right. You can be on one side of the political spectrum, they can be on the other. I mean, as long as you're not radically on either side, they just want to know that what you stand for, what's important to you. And they don't, that doesn't mean they won't like you. And by the way, my opinion, and granted, I am in a place in my life where I don't have to worry as much. And I tell people, look, if you're at a company where you really have to watch that, then you have to know where you are and know your space and handle it appropriately. But again, being yourself to me is the most important advice. And then also you're being true to yourself. Now, let me make sure I'm being really clear here, because one of the things I don't prescribe to is the Gary Vaynerchuk thing of only do what you're good at and
don't work on the rest of it.
Don't sleep when you're dead and all that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be who you are. And I'm also not saying quit your job. Oh my God, don't work for anybody. Quit your job. Be an entrepreneur. No, that's not for everybody.
Right.
And also there are a lot of people, not everybody can quit their job. You have families, you have kids, you have responsibilities, you have a sick parent or a sick child. I mean, there are a lot of things a lot of us have to do. Like you can hate your job. That's okay. If you need that job and you need that paycheck, then, and I don't, by the way, if it goes on for your whole life, that might suck. And I wish you had it better. But if you recognize the fact that you need that, then find your happiness in something else. So again, what I'm saying, but I am saying if you can possibly, be who you are, do what you like, do what you love, or be who you are in that job. You got a job, you're waiting tables, you hate it, be the best waitress there ever was. Be the best garbage collector there ever was. Even if it's, and by the way, some people might love that job. That's great. But if it's a job you hate, make it better. By changing your attitude and your perspective, which leads to how you set your mind and mindset.
Awesome advice. Be true to yourself, be yourself, and be the best person you can be in the situation you're in. Awesome. So you're currently working on a new book titled Retail Relevancy with John Andrews. So tell us a little bit about what the book is about and when we can find it.
Well, when you can find it is a really good question. So, because we expected you to be able to find it by January, but things get in the way and growing businesses and other things. John and I are not full-time authors, and John is really the brains behind this book. I add a lot of which I always have when I work with John. John is a retail thought leader. I build the relationship and engagement kind of a component around it. But, the world of retail has been shifting beneath our feet, and it's doing so because the digital age has fundamentally changed everything about how we live. It's changed how we communicate, how we work, how we travel, how we buy things. And just like the digital revolution before it that brought us to this point, there's no turning back. We've already seen these forces play out with the dominance of e-commerce companies like Amazon. Big box stores are scrambling to change how they approach and provide products and services to consumers to compete and stay relevant. There are direct-to-consumer models that are completely disrupting the business and making channel conflict a part of what every company actually has to live with and deal with. So, and shopping behavior is just changing. So, John and I are looking at that. We're looking at it from our perspective. And, our goal in writing the book is to explore how brands and retailers can successfully navigate this shift in shopper behavior that's happening right now. Look, people sometimes misunderstand when they hear us. Like, I've been accused of saying retail is dead. I've never said that.
Never said that.
And I've never said traditional retail is necessarily dead. I said it's evolving. So stores are not going away tomorrow. However, this fundamental role of a retailer is morphing from physical location to a service that fits the product needs of a consumer whenever and wherever he or she chooses. These new technologies, they're creating a real challenge for today's retailers. So we're looking at that, and we're hoping to be able to give insight into that. And if I had to make a guess, I'd say we're really hoping to have this book out by the fall.
Awesome. Sounds great. We look forward to Retail Relevancy by you and your colleague, John Andrews. Are there any parting words for our audience that you would like to share?
Yeah, there are two parting words. Anybody who knows me knows I use these a lot. I want everyone to take away from this and everything else they've done that relationships are like muscle tissue. The more you engage them, the stronger and more valuable they become. Because people just overlook that. You have to exercise those relationship muscles. And, as an aside to that, very often people have heard me say that I think that baby boomers are the best at social media. And people look at me sideways. They say, what are you talking about? Like millennials. And I'm like, no, it's not, they're not the best at the use of the platforms or the technology behind it, but they have experience in building relationships. And this is an age thing. The older you get, the better you get at learning when someone's looking at you in a certain way and you need to know how to react to that. Like I like to say, I can walk into a room where there's conflict. And in a second, I can jack up that conflict or I can tone down that conflict by the way I act and the things I say. And to me, that comes with age and experience. It has nothing to do with the generation you're from or what you do. It's experience. So I really believe that goes to the relationship side of things. And then the last thing I want to leave your audience with is that, we all talk about networks, connect with people, build all those numbers. I like to say that a network gives you reach, which is very important, but a community gives you power. Networks connect, communities care. So do everything you can I have communities throughout my world, business, friendship, family, and then I do my best to make those communities overlap where they can, so that I get even more exponential value added to it. Because just remember, just like when you live in a neighborhood, what is a community? People look out for you. They tell you something that's been wrong in your house. When somebody parked in front, your kids had a party when you went on your vacation and the place was a wreck and the cops came. It's always nice to know that from your neighbors. And the same holds true in business and in all other parts of your life, because community members will always be there to support you. So just think beyond the network to the community.
Awesome. Think beyond the network to the community. Awesome. Thank you so much, Ted, for your time today. We really appreciate all of the insights and the advice. This has been an enthusiastic conversation and very exciting. Where can some of our listeners find out more about you?
Well, I'm very easy to find stuff about. My blog is tedrubin.com. I'm at Ted Rubin on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, just about everywhere. If you Google Ted Rubin, the first 20 pages is me, so feel free to click on anything there. My other blog is Return on Relationship. And look, make it simple. tedrubin@gmail.com, 516-270-5511. Reach out anytime.
Awesome. Incredible. Thank you so much, Ted. We appreciate your time today. Guys, thanks for listening to this interview. For these and other interviews and topics, please visit us at techfunnel.com. You can connect with us across social, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in the industry. Thank you.